So compared to our whole lifetime, this one day is very short. It comes and it goes very quickly. But we can still make it highly meaningful. And if we then have a series of days, one by one, and in each day we generate bodhicitta, and each day we guard our mind against negativity. In each day we try and open our hearts a little bit more. If we practice like that just day by day, even though one day is very short, the cumulative effect of it is very strong. So in this age of push-button everything, we need to learn how to not be so impatient and wanting things to change quickly or come about quickly. But see that if we create the causes day by day, week by week, month by month, then there's a stable basis upon which everything good can be built. And that the result will come. And because it's built on a stable basis, the result itself will be stable. So let's just take delight in each new day we have to create virtue, abandon non-virtue, practice bodhicitta, try to understand emptiness, and then live our life with satisfaction, with contentment, knowing that it is a life that is well lived. So with that intention, let's share the Dharma today. Okay, so we're talking about the 5 object-ascertaining mental factors. Yesterday we did the 5 omnipresent ones that come with every kind of mental state. Yeah, so contact, feeling, discrimination, intention, and attention. And now the 5 object-ascertaining ones. Okay, so the 5 object-ascertaining mental factors are so called because they apprehend the individual features of an object. The Treasury of Knowledge says that these 5 accompany all mental states, whereas the Compendium of Knowledge asserts that they accompany only virtuous mental states. And those two who wrote those 2 books were brothers, and they couldn't even agree. Okay. So these 5 are not themselves virtuous, but become virtuous because of being associated with a virtuous mental state. In this case, the mindfulness accompanying a mental consciousness that apprehends and has aversion towards a repulsive object would not be the mindfulness of the 5 object-ascertaining mental factors, but would be another mental factor similar to it. Okay, so mindfulness is one of these. In this case, the mindfulness accompanying a mental factor, a mental consciousness that apprehends and has aversion towards a repulsive object, would not be the mindfulness of the 5 object-ascertaining mental factors if you're talking about those according to a Sangha who says that no. Because a Sangha would say they accompany only virtuous mental factors. So that one isn't apprehending a virtuous mental factor.
But then it says there'll be another mental factor similar.
Yeah, right. Okay, so it's a type of mindfulness, but then according to Sangha, it wouldn't be the mindfulness that is one of these five. Okay. But for his brother, Vasubandhu, all's okay. It can still be mindfulness. Okay, so the first of these five is aspiration. Sometimes it's translated as interest. And it is a mental factor that takes a strong interest in an intended object and is the basis for joyous effort. So it's not just interest, like I want to understand how this football came into being. Yeah. It's talking here about the developing virtuous aspirations in our Dharma practice, because remember, all of these are selected as important because they're important for attaining liberation and awakening. Okay, so aspiration, would, based on learning about, let's say, the qualities of an arhat, the qualities of a bodhisattva, the qualities of a Buddha, then aspiration would be the part of the mind that takes strong interest in it and wants to attain it. Okay. The second one is appreciation. So this is also translated as belief. Yeah. So it stabilizes the apprehension of a previously ascertained object and holds it such that it cannot be distracted by another view. Okay, so if we've understood something, then this mental factor, helps that understanding remain. It stabilizes that what we've apprehended, so that if we hear another view or something like that, we don't get confused and all of a sudden, start believing something else. Yeah. So it's an appreciation or belief in something. Yeah. So we may also look at the Buddha's qualities and appreciate them, and then based on appreciating them, then aspire to gain them. So these mental factors can often work together. That doesn't mean they're in the same moment of mind, but they help each other. Okay, then the third one is mindfulness. Yeah, so again, this does not mean what your app is telling you. Yeah. Here, mindfulness repeatedly brings to mind a phenomena of previous acquaintance without forgetting it. It does not allow the mind to be distracted from the object and is the basis for concentration. Okay? So, mindfulness, when we're learning to concentrate on something, it's the mental factor that works together with attention to keep the mind on the object. So it has to have some previous familiarity with the object, and then it repeatedly brings that mind to, it brings that object to mind, remembering it again and again and again. Okay? So it's, as it's defined here, it's different than bare attention. Okay, so different people may define mindfulness differently. Also, in different contexts, the word can be defined differently. But in general, bare attention is simply being aware of what is manifest in your mind at a particular moment and noticing that. Here, mindfulness knows an object beforehand and repeatedly brings the mind to that object, yeah, in such a way that the mind can't be distracted to something else. Yeah. So the word that The Sanskrit word for mindfulness can also be translated as memory. Okay, and when we're developing concentration, we need to remember the object. Okay, it isn't just a thing of, okay, let's say the image of the Buddha is our meditation object. It isn't just, okay, I visualize the image of the Buddha and now I can start thinking about whatever I want to, and my mind's going to stay on the Buddha. Forget it. Well, we have forgotten it. And yeah, so we need mindfulness that keeps bringing the mind back. Yeah, and seeing if we're still focused on our object of concentration. Okay, so it has to be something we're familiar with. So that's why, you know, if you're doing breathing meditation, you have to be able to identify your breath. If you're focusing on the image of a Buddha as your meditation object for stabilizing meditation, then you want to look at a statue or a painting or something of the Buddha so that you know what he looks like, and then you visualize, and then mindfulness keeps your mind on that object, and if it goes strays, then there's another mental factor called introspective awareness that notices that we've gotten off the object, and then we renew the mindfulness and bring our attention back to the object. Okay, so mindfulness is very important if you want to develop concentration, because we have to remember our meditation object to have concentration on it. When we do the four establishments of mindfulness on body, feelings, mind, and phenomena, their mindfulness still has the same meaning. It keeps the mind on the object, but it's also works very closely together with wisdom. Because when you're doing the four establishments of mindfulness, you're not just observing the body or observing the feelings or so on, but you're actually actively trying to understand them. So that's your mindfulness, enables you to stay on the object and penetrate the object more deeply so that your wisdom can start to function. Okay, so here you can see that it doesn't mean bear attention on something. Okay. In some Buddhist traditions, mindfulness can mean bear attention. Okay, so again, different definitions for different people. Okay, then the fourth object-ascertaining mind is concentration, single-pointedness, or Samadhi. Okay, so concentration, another mental factor, dwells one-pointedly for a sustained period of time on a single object. It is the basis for developing serenity and increasing wisdom. Okay, so mindfulness and attention, get the mind on the object, keep it there. Concentration, enables it to stay there for a sustained period of time. Okay, so we have to be able to concentrate. And concentration is something we develop. It's a skill that we develop. We all have this mental factor, and if we practice properly, then we can strengthen it and develop it, and it works much better. Okay. Now, it often comes up, well, does concentration also mean, when you're fixing your car, you really have to concentrate? Or when you're painting, you really have to concentrate. Is that the same kind of concentration here? No, it's a different kind of concentration, because when you're doing some kind of task, the object you're focusing on is changing all the time. Yeah. And the way you're focusing on it is changing. If you're fixing your car, you're looking at, this part and that part and turning it around and adding something else and taking something out. So you're focusing on many, many different objects and working with them and changing their position and everything. So yes, it requires some sort of concentration because you're not thinking about, candy bars at that time, hopefully, although maybe you are. So it requires some kind of concentration, but it's not the concentration, the meditative concentration that is being spoken of here. Okay? So don't get these things confused. Otherwise, we do, you sit down and you do some artwork and you think, oh, I had samadhi. Not exactly. Yeah, sure, you needed some concentration and focus, but that isn't what we call samadhi. Concentration is another word that has different meanings in different contexts. So in the beginning of the Heart Sutra, what concentration is the Buddha in? The concentration, the illumination of all phenomena. Okay, so their concentration is referring to the Buddha's in single-pointed concentration, but it's on a particular topic. So that's called a concentration on, this or a concentration on that. Okay, is that making sense to you? Yeah? Okay, so their concentration isn't referring to this mental factor in general, it's referring to when it's being used in a specific context on a specific object or regarding that object in a specific way. So wisdom can be translated as understanding, as intelligent. There's several different English words. So again, the actual meaning of wisdom can vary according to the circumstance. Okay? Because intelligence and understanding are very different, aren't they? Yeah. And it's also remarkable how people who are intelligent in worldly subjects sometimes have very little Dharma wisdom. And they have difficulty understanding the Dharma. Okay, so worldly intelligence and Dharma wisdom are very, very different. Yeah, and intelligence or wisdom, understanding, like all these five object ascertaining minds, is something that can be developed. Yeah, it's not just that we're born with it and, you got 5 tablespoons and that's your allocation for your life. It's a quality that can be developed and enhanced. Okay, so it functions to discriminate precisely with analysis. So it's a discriminating mind, okay? What does it discriminate? The qualities, faults, or characteristic of an object held by mindfulness. Okay, it cuts through indecision and doubt with certainty and maintains the root of all constructive qualities in this and future lives. Okay, so here we're beginning to see how some of these mental factors work together. If you believe something or you appreciate it, you will want to attain that quality, or you may want to do that meditation. Then you work with mindfulness to remember the object of the meditation, and through that you're developing concentration. Yeah. You apply wisdom to that, and because you have the ability to concentrate very well, your wisdom can go very deep. Okay. So, and here we're not talking so much about worldly wisdom, we're talking about Dharma wisdom, okay? So you see that all these mental factors have to work together and that they aid each other. If we may have wisdom regarding something, but if we can't hold the mind there with mindfulness and concentration, then that wisdom can't go very deep into the topic, you know? And we can see that in our Lamrim meditations, can't we? You know, we start thinking about something and, you know, it's coming along, and then all of a sudden we're thinking about lunch, and, you know, the understanding we were developing about karma, which was our object of meditation, is gone, and we're on lunch. Okay, and that's because we didn't have this, our mindfulness wasn't strong to start with to keep the mind there. We didn't have the mental factor of introspective awareness that notices that restlessness arose. Restlessness is another mental factor that takes our mind off the object to an object of attachment, like lunch, or whatever your object of attachment is, okay? And so the introspective awareness wasn't functioning. It didn't notice we were off the object. Mindfulness was, you know, not very strong. It was sleeping. Concentration was bye-bye. Okay, and so then wisdom also can't function very well. Yeah. So we want to develop all these qualities together. Some people think, okay, I just want to focus on concentration and developing my concentration. I don't think that's the best way to approach Dharma practice. Because, you know, the Buddha talked about 3 higher trainings: ethical conduct, concentration, and wisdom. And he spoke about them in that order because if you develop the prior one, it's easier for the latter one to develop. Okay, so if you want to learn to concentrate, you have to keep good ethical conduct. Okay, now somebody's going to go, but why? You know, I mean, ethical conduct, that's what I'm doing in my life. Concentration is my meditation practice. Why do, you know, I have to do that? Anyway, ethical conduct is just for Sunday school, you know, and that's when they taught me that I'm going to hell if I take my sister's crayons, you know. So we have this very infantile view because we were infants when we learned it. But these mental factors of mindfulness and introspective awareness that are so crucial for developing concentration, we first develop them when we practice ethical conduct, because they're easier to develop by practicing ethical conduct than by practicing concentration, because ethical conduct has to do, when we start, you know, keeping ethical conduct, it has to do with actions of our body and speech, okay? And our mouth and our body don't move unless the mind moves. So what the mind does, the mind's actions are much subtler. They're more difficult to recognize than when we're saying something out loud or doing something. Have you ever had the experience you're talking to a friend and you say something and then you realize, oh, wow, you know, I didn't know that I really felt that. Yeah? And then you know, you find yourself saying something and it's kind of like, oh, gee, that's been on my mind for a long time, but I didn't realize it until I heard myself say it. Yeah? Or we do something and then it's like, oh, I didn't realize that I had a thought about this until I saw myself doing something. So, you know, our actions of body and speech are much grosser than mental actions, so that they're easier to modify, to notice, and then to modify. So that's why in our ethical conduct, we start out with the pratimoksha precepts. That refers to the 5 lay precepts and our monastic precepts. And there's different sets of them where you take different numbers of precepts. But, your practice of ethical conduct really begins with observing what you're saying and what you're physically doing and beginning to subdue that. Of course, by subduing your physical and verbal actions, you have to look at your mind because the mind is the motivator to do the physical and verbal things. Okay? But we may not be able to restrain the mind wanting to do something, but it's easier to restrain the body and speech from doing it. Okay? Like, I'm really fuming mad. I want to go and tell that person off. But I have some awareness that it's creating negative karma, so I'm going to keep my mouth closed. I'm not going to walk over there. I'm not going to punch them in the nose. Okay, so you can control your body and speech, even though your mind may still be raging with anger. Okay, if you don't, if you're not aware that you're so angry and you just let your body and speech go, then before you know it, you're in a big fight, beating the other guy up and calling him names and so on and so forth. Okay, or screaming, or whatever your, what do they call it, preferred method of fighting is. Yeah, you use that. Okay, so, so we develop, strengthen the qualities of mindfulness and introspective awareness by keeping ethical discipline. Having strengthened them, those 2 mental factors in that way, then it's easier to apply them when we're concentrating and developing concentration, because that entails working with our mind, which is more subtle than our body and speech. And, we have kind of a running start by having some mindfulness, some introspective awareness, because we've strengthened them with our ethical conduct. Also, ethical conduct is important for concentration, because when we don't keep ethical conduct, then our mind is always spinning. And it spins in 2 ways. One is planning all of our selfish activities of how to get what we want, how to retaliate when somebody else interferes with us. So the mind keeps very, very busy with all of its rumination. And as we know, when we're trying to develop concentration, rumination is incompatible. Okay? Also, when we don't keep good ethical conduct, when we try to meditate, the other way the mind is distracted is we have guilt, we have confusion, we have regret, we don't feel good about what we did. Okay? And then that takes the mind away from the meditation object and makes concentration or single-pointedness difficult. Okay? So do you see why ethical conduct comes first before concentration in our practice? And we have to have that basis of ethical conduct to really grow in any other way that we want to grow in the Dharma. Because if our ethical conduct is like non-existent, and we have a thought an impulse in our mind, an urge in our mind, and we follow it right away, it's going to be difficult to control the mind to do any kind of Dharma practice. Yeah, because the mind thinks this and we follow it there, and the mind thinks that and we go there, and the mind's all over the place. I think we all know that state well. Yeah, do you know that well? Okay. So that's why we start with taking precepts and keeping precepts. On that basis, we develop concentration, and then we also develop wisdom. So you don't have to have, it's not like you get your ethical conduct perfect before you develop concentration and wisdom, or get your concentration perfect before you develop wisdom. But we try and practice all three of these at the same time. But at the beginning, we emphasize the ethical conduct part. Okay? And then, but we still, train in the other two. Okay, so there's different kinds of wisdom. So the one kind is inborn intelligence. So that's the natural acuity of the mind that comes as a result of karma from previous lives. Yeah? So we may be born just, people have different kinds of intelligence for different objects. Yeah. We tend to say, oh, this person is intelligent and this person isn't. I don't think that's correct, because people have intelligence for different objects. Yeah. So you may be very intelligent in the sense of understanding how to fix a car, but not very intelligent in knowing how to manage money. Yeah. So hopefully you wouldn't go into banking as a career, but you would go into car mechanics. And we need people who do both jobs for society to function. So I'm not quite certain why, people in finance and banking get paid more than people who do car mechanics, because the people in finance couldn't even get to their work without the people who do car mechanics. Yeah. And, why do doctors get paid more, again, than people who do car mechanics? One's fixing a car, one's fixing a body. You're basically doing mechanics when you do surgery. Yeah. The results are a little bit more dire if you blow it. Yeah. But the results can be dire if you blow your car mechanics too, because then somebody's, zooming on the highway and the car explodes. Yeah. Have you ever seen a car catch on fire? Yeah. I've seen that. It's whoa. It was at the intersection right by Green Lake in Seattle. Lots of people at the intersection, and the car just went poof, and the person fortunately got out. So anyway, that's my social discourse. But people have different kinds of wisdom. Yeah, so, and different kinds of intelligence. So I don't think it's so fair that we compare ourselves to others, because what one person excels at, another person doesn't. Okay? You ask me to draw something, I'll get you a stick figure. Yeah, that's my capability. Yeah. I look at the artwork. Some of the guys who I write to, who are incarcerated, their artwork is stupendous. Really good artwork. I can't go anywhere near that. Like I said, I'll do you a little stick figure. Yeah. Okay. So in society, we need everybody, and everybody has a different kind of intelligence. Okay, so there's the inborn intelligence that, is conditioned by karma, which may have something to do with what we developed, what talents we developed in a previous life, or maybe what prayers we made in a previous life. Okay, could have to do with that. And then the second kind is acquired understanding or wisdom, and that's what is cultivated in this life. Yeah. So if you have the self-image, I am stupid, you are wrong. And if you think I'm stupid, I'm never going to be able to learn anything, you are wrong. Okay, so just try telling the Buddha he's lying when you say, I can't develop my intelligence. When you say that, that's essentially what you're saying. Is the Buddha's lying when the Buddha says that intelligence can be developed? Because I can't develop my intelligence. I am inherently stupid, always have been, always will be. So I won't even try. Okay, so acquired wisdom or understanding cultivated in this life. A person may generate it with respect to various topics of the stages of the path. Okay, so again, here it's talking about it in terms of the Dharma. So there's 3 types. So we come across these 3 types very often in both the Pali and the Sanskrit traditions. Okay, so the understanding or wisdom arising from hearing, learning, or studying a topic. Okay, so it brings knowledge of the topic and lays the foundation for the other 2 types of understanding. So when you're sitting here now listening, when you read the book, then that's this wisdom. Whatever you're getting out of that, you're getting some knowledge, some wisdom, some understanding, then that's the wisdom of hearing. So that is the initial thing. It starts the process, okay? And you'll note that the other 2 wisdoms come after this. So that is indicating that unless you have extraordinary spiritual development from a previous life and extraordinary karma, the first time you hear something, you're not going to have a direct, reliable cognition of it, okay? Or even an inference. Yeah, so it comes gradually. Then the second kind is the understanding or wisdom arising from critical reflection or contemplation. So that's generated by thinking about a topic on our own or debating and discussing it with others. Through it, we gain a correct conceptual, inferential understanding of the topic. So with the first wisdom of learning, we get maybe a correct assumption. Or maybe it's just starting us out getting doubt, because we held a very concrete wrong view, and then we hear something and we read something and we go, oh, maybe this makes more sense than what I'm thinking. So it may generate a doubt or a correct assumption. The second one, remember I was saying there's a lot of space between a correct assumption and an inference. Okay, so that developing that is the second stage. So you're reflecting on the what you learned, you're discussing it with other people, you're debating it, you're asking questions, you're answering questions. In other words, you're really engaging with the material. And the thing is, because just learning something, reading something, or hearing something, we get that initial idea, but it's not sure that we've understood the topic correctly. Yeah. You hear something and then you generate your own idea, and maybe that's actually quite far from what, the text is talking about. We see that all the time with human beings, don't we? People say things to one another, and we misunderstand. Somebody says something, we think we understand what they say, we misunderstood. So this second kind of understanding, which is gained through contemplation and discussion and so on, is questioning, is really important, because this is what refines our understanding and makes sure that we've really understood the teachings correctly. Okay, so sometimes people, they want to become Buddhist teachers, so they think, okay, I'll just listen to some teachings, and then that's all I need to do. I listen to it, and then I repeat it, and then I become a teacher. It's not exactly like that, because if we don't have a correct understanding, and then we start repeating things to other people, holding ourselves up as a teacher, but we're actually teaching something that's incorrect, then there's a lot of suffering that's going to result from that. First of all, the people we're teaching are being misled, and they're going to believe something that isn't correct. And second of all, by misleading them, we're creating negative karma. Okay? So this is why, when you're learning the Dharma, my view is we are students from this moment until we attain full awakening. We are always a student. Even we become high bodhisattvas. I mean, you look, when His Holiness teaches, all the Geshis come, and they teach the same texts. But they come when His Holiness is even teaching precious human life. Okay? We're always a student. Once in a while, according to circumstance, we're in the role of giving information to people. Okay? His Holiness always says, I don't see myself as a teacher, I see myself as an elder Dharma friend that's helping other people, because I happen to know more. Because he's studied more and, whatever. So he doesn't go. I mean, the only thing he says is, okay, when it's initiation of highest class Tantra, then you have to see me as the guru. But, aside from that, I'm just, like an older friend who's guiding you on the path, which is so different from all these people who are holding themselves up as, I'm a Dharma teacher, when they don't have a fraction of the understanding of Dharma that His Holiness has. Yeah, so you really see the difference. But my point in saying this is that it's not sufficient just to hear teachings or read a book and then think you can teach other people. It requires really, at least this second step of critical reflection to make sure that we have the right understanding. Yeah, because what I've really noticed is that people tend to believe the first thing they hear. So sometimes the first teachers are the ones who need to be the really highly realized ones, because they're what the people recognize, remember. Hensur Jampa Chektok, he's the one who wrote Transforming Adversity into Joy and Courage, and also Insight into Emptiness. He was asked to go teach at a Dharma center in England. This was back in the 70s. Yeah, late 70s. And he said, why do I have to go to England to teach these people, because they don't know anything about the Dharma? You can send somebody who, because he was a Geshe, he wasn't being conceited or anything, but it was just, it's more useful for me to teach the students at the monastery who are going to be studying, also trying to become Geshes, than to go and teach these baby beginners in UK. But he went, and then after he went and taught there for a while, then he came back and he said, oh, now I understand why they asked a Geshe to go and why it's important that the Geshis go. Because, one reason is because the audience was more educated and people were asking a lot of questions that the Tibetans wouldn't ask. Yeah, we Ingis ask all sorts of questions that Tibetans would never ask. And he also realized that, these people are going to believe the first thing they hear. So they need to get, correct information from somebody like a Geshe. Yeah. But sometimes you see these really wise teachers, really, teaching people who don't seem to appreciate who the teachers are. Yeah. Gyongla Rata Rinpoche, when he came to America, I think he came at His Holiness's request, and he sat on the streets of New York, with his bowl, panhandle. It was a beggar, because he wanted to learn what America was like, and also because he was working a job at Macy's, stuffing boxes and helping ship things out. And nobody in Macy's recognized the brilliance of his mind. So for years he was working at Macy's, and then by his own choice, sitting on the streets of New York to understand what America's like. Until somebody, I don't know who it was, figured out who he was, and then they set up a Dharma center and had him start teaching. Yeah. Yeah. Read his story. It's in My Life and Lives, his autobiography. Okay, then we have the understanding or wisdom arising from meditation, and that's derived from deeper personal experience when understanding of the topic arises automatically in our minds because we are very familiar with it. So the real key is familiarity. The more familiar we are with something, the easily it arises in our mind. That's why we get angry so easily, because we're very familiar with anger. Yeah, that's why counteracting our attachment is so difficult, because we're so familiar with attachment. Okay. And that's why remembering what we read in a Dharma book is very hard, because we're not very familiar with it. Okay, so we need to apply some enthusiastic effort to be able to remember these things. Our current mental factors of concentration and wisdom are the uncultivated basis for the actual concentration and wisdom that arise due to sustained Dharma practice. So we have the seeds of these things in our mind, and then it's up to us to cultivate them. The wisdom referred to in the expression method and wisdom, and the concentration referred to in the phrase concentration found in the fourth dhyana, are very different in strength, acuity, and effectiveness from the mental factors we now have that bear the same names. Okay. Nonetheless, our present mental factors of concentration and wisdom can be nourished and transformed into serenity and insight. Okay, so we have some concentration now, but when we talk about concentration in the fourth dhyana, you're so concentrated that your breath stops. There's no inhalation or an exhalation. Yeah, there's no physical pain, no mental pain. Yeah, no investigation or analysis. That's how deep your concentration is. Very different than our concentration right now. But our concentration right now, if nourished, can become that kind of concentration. Okay, so similarly, when we talk about wisdom, in method and wisdom, method, it refers to, it kind of corresponds to the activities that we do to accumulate merit, and it involves all the other meditations, involving generosity and ethical conduct and fortitude and so on. Okay, and then wisdom is referring to the wisdom of realizing emptiness explicitly. And then, of course, the wisdom understanding conventionalities and the wisdom knowing how to benefit sentient beings. But that wisdom understanding emptiness is very different than the intelligence or the wisdom that you need in order to fix a vacuum cleaner. Okay, or in order to even develop one of these whatever kind of things this one developed. Okay, they're very different kinds of wisdom, but we can cultivate our wisdom, so it becomes like that. Okay, 11 virtuous mental factors. Okay, so there's actually more than 11, but these 11 are pointed out. In the 51, there's much more non-virtuous, many more non-virtuous mental factors are pointed out than virtuous ones. Okay, because at the beginning of our practice, we have to focus on identifying the afflictions and subduing them. And then the process of doing that, we are cultivating our good qualities. But we have to, so many of the negative ones are pointed out here so that we know exactly what we need to work on. Okay, but first the virtuous ones. Okay, so again, we have these in our mind now, these mental factors, but we have to cultivate them. Okay, so the 11 virtuous mental factors cause the omnipresent, object-ascertaining, and variable mental factors to take on a virtuous aspect and bring peace to oneself and others. Each of the 11 is an antidote to particular afflictions. Okay, so when these 11 or some type of them is manifest in the mind, then that's what makes the mind a virtuous mind. Okay, so the first one is faith, but faith is not a good translation. It's more trust or confidence, but they aren't fantastic, translations either. And I say faith isn't so good because we usually think of faith as blind faith, and that's not really what's being discussed here. Okay? So, faith is confidence in such things as the law of karma and its effects and the three jewels. It produces a joyous state of mind free from the turmoil of the root and auxiliary afflictions, and is the basis for generating the aspiration to develop new constructive qualities and enhancing virtuous aspirations already generated. Okay, so faith makes the mind very buoyant. It inspires belief. It inspires aspiration and appreciation. Okay, and it's a mind that trusts. In the context of our Dharma practice, it's the mind that trusts the Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, and especially, when we hear the teachings, trusting the teachings. Okay. So there's three kinds of faith. The first one is inspired faith that knows the qualities of an object and rejoices in them. So maybe you study the qualities of the bodhisattva grounds, the 10 bodhisattva grounds, and you go, wow, this sounds really amazing. And, I may not be near that, but I am so happy there are beings in this universe that are, and it just gives me so much faith that people like that exist, that it gives me faith that developing those qualities is possible. It gives me some inspiration that maybe I can do that too. Okay, so that's inspired faith. Aspiring faith knows the qualities of the object and aspires to attain them. So inspiring faith rejoices in those qualities. Aspiring faith says, I want to generate them too. Not just, oh, it's possible for me to generate them, but I want to do it. Okay? So aspiring faith really turns the mind to those qualities and aspires to generate them. And so you can see that that kind of faith is what really gets us involved and makes enthusiastic or joyous effort arise. And then the third kind of faith is convictional faith. Sometimes it's called believing faith. And it knows the qualities of the object and thereby has confidence in it. So you studied at the beginning of this program the four seals that make a teaching, a Buddhist teaching. So as you contemplate them and realize the truth of these teachings, then you develop this kind of convictional faith. In other words, yeah, this is true. You know, all conditioned things are impermanent. Yeah. All polluted things are under the control of afflictions and karma. You know, all objects are selfless. So you develop through generating wisdom, you develop this kind of convictional faith. Okay, so we remember yesterday I said that faith and understanding or wisdom go hand in hand. So, you know, the wisdom makes the mind sharp and makes the mind investigate things and think about things. And then that, you know, that grows our convictional faith because we're convinced in what we've studied. It grows our inspired and aspiring faith because we want to attain those qualities. Okay. Then when we have faith in the mind is very joyous, very happy. There's not this doubt and resistance in our mind. Okay? So the remedy to doubt and resistance is faith, but not blind faith. You know, faith that comes from knowing something. Yeah. And so when your mind has that kind of joyousness, then when you sit to study or you sit to hear teachings or meditate, your mind's very receptive to the Dharma. You know, you don't have all sorts of thoughts going, yes, but, or I think, or what you're saying is wrong, or this person said that, or this is nonsense, get me out of here. Okay, so you don't have that kind of mind interfering. And so that faith helps your wisdom grow. Okay? Then the second one is integrity. Some people translate this as shame. Banish that translation. Okay, banish it. There's two types of shame, yeah? That two ways in English that we use the word shame. We usually think just of one, okay? The one we usually think of is I'm full of shame because I'm incompetent, I'm defective from the beginning, I'm a horrible person, I don't want anybody to know what goes on inside of me because I'm so ashamed, I'm just full of garbage, okay? That kind of shame. That clearly is not what is meant by this mental factor. The kind of shame that is meant by this mental factor, you find, I think, more readily in Asian cultures than you do in Western cultures. It's the idea of you have a certain kind of integrity that keeps you from going beyond your beyond your values and principles. Okay? So that why they translate, some people translate it as shame, which I still object to, is the kind of shame of, I can do better than this and I really blew it. But emphasizing not the really I blew it side, which leads you into the negative kind of shame, but emphasizing the I can do better than this side. Is that making sense? Do you know the two kinds of shame here? So because when you say shame in English, people usually go to the first kind I described. That's why I think we should not use that word at all. Many people still do. So I'm warning you. If you read it in a translation, think integrity. Think self-respect. Okay? Don't think, oh, it's virtuous to have so much shame that, you know, I think I'm an awful person. No. Okay? So, integrity avoids negativity for reasons of personal conscience and self-respect. It enables us to restrain from harmful physical, verbal, and mental actions and is the basis for ethical conduct. Okay? So, integrity, you know, when we have a certain kind of integrity, a certain kind of self-respect, then we monitor our behavior and we restrain from harmful actions because we want to respect ourselves and because we have a certain expectation of our capabilities and our ability to fulfill those capabilities. Okay, so it's not an expectation that's on the moon, that's unrealistic, but it's something of, you know I can do well. And so here's this situation where I could probably act negatively and get away with it, but I have some self-respect, I have a sense of integrity, and I'm not going to get involved with this. You know, this is beyond, okay? The next one is consideration for others. So integrity abandon negativities because of ourself, because we have self-respect. Consideration for others abandons negativity because we don't want to harm other living beings. Okay, so this is not people-pleasing. It is not, you want me to do this, so I'm doing what I think you think I should do. No, it's not that. It's, we genuinely care for others, and we know that our behavior affects others, so we know that if we behave abominably, people might lose faith in the Dharma. They shouldn't lose faith in the Dharma because the Dharma, the virtuous qualities of the Dharma itself never decline. But because people are sentient beings and they know that we're Buddhists, if we misbehave, it could make them lose faith. You know? So this is what is so harmful in all these scandals that we find in religious organizations, is that it really it makes people lose faith in the Dharma, which is, they don't need to do that because it wasn't the Dharma that was the source of the scandal. It was the person's lack of integrity and consideration for others that was the source of the scandal. Okay? So don't lose faith when you see other people acting impurely, or stupidly, but, have these two mental factors in your own mind so that you're aware that your actions affect other sentient beings. Our actions matter. Even we don't care about our actions. They matter to other people. Okay. Our caring about our actions, that's integrity. Our caring about the effect of our actions on other people, that is consideration for others. Yeah. So these two are very, very important for our ethical conduct and for practicing the Dharma in general. Yeah. So consideration for others cares about the effect of our actions on others and avoids negativity for their sake. It enables us to restrain from harmful physical, verbal, and mental actions, acts as the basis for maintaining pure ethical conduct, prevents others from losing faith in us, and causes joy to arise in the mind of others. When we see somebody who acts with ethical conduct, who has integrity and consideration for others, doesn't it give you a feeling of goodness? You feel like, oh, sentient beings have some goodness. Yeah. It makes your mind happy. When we watch the behavior of people who lack these two, people, you watch what's happening now. People are becoming cynical, argumentative. Everybody's standard of behavior goes down. So these two, integrity and consideration for others, very, very important. And then the third one, so you can see why they're virtuous mental factors. Yeah. Then the fourth one is non-attachment. Okay. So non-attachment is not the mere absence of attachment. It's the opposite of attachment. Okay. And the direct antidote to it. Referring to an object in cyclic existence, non-attachment prevents and counteracts attachment and subdues obsession with attractive objects and people. So non-attachment isn't just, oh, I don't care, I'm not attached to that, doesn't bother me. Yeah, that's not the meaning of non-attachment. Non-attachment has some wisdom. And it says, oh, this object looks a certain way. If I let my mind go and just wander, exaggerating the good qualities of this object, yeah, projecting good qualities that aren't there, yeah, then my mind isn't really seeing reality correctly. What is this object really? Okay, so, when you're attached to your red sports car, because you just turned 65 and you want to feel young again, yeah? So you're attached to your red sports car. Then, non-attachment is, wait a minute, what's this object going to do for me? Yeah, I have a red sports car. I'm 65, I'm 75. What do I want to be doing with the rest of my life? Do I want to be riding around in red sports cars trying to pick up women? Yeah, that's what I did when I was 15 and 25. I'm 65 now. I should have learned something. Okay, so non-attachment balances the mind, and it sees the pitfalls of that, so that it's not just the lack of attachment, but it's really seeing this is an object of samsara. I don't want to get all attached and involved with it. Okay. When you have non-attachment, it enables you to be much more generous because you aren't all like, this is my cup and my microphone and my gong and my tissues. Yeah, you sneezed, you need a tissue, sorry. These are my tissues. And you see what a beautiful drawing there is on the back of those tissues. That's why people gave this package especially to me, because I am worthy of even a beautiful tissue package, although it's nothing. But you can't have it. Okay, so yeah, non-attachment cuts all that stuff out. Okay. And non-attachment enables our mind to be emotionally balanced. Yeah, we can be balanced. Then, next one. When you get to hear not just about faith, integrity, consideration for others, and non-attachment, but non-hatred, non-confusion, joyous effort, pliancy, conscientiousness, non-harmfulness, and equanimity, all of which you need. But you're going off in your red sports car, so I have nothing to say. I only tease the people that I feel comfortable around. Although once I teased him and he didn't speak to me for 2 or 3 years. Okay, so maybe we better stop here.